Okay, whenever you're ready.
So, what am I just saying? Boundaries. Okay, are you ready? Are you really ready? Oh, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about boundaries. Boundaries. Man, I could use a couple of those. I don't know if anybody else is suffering from a lack of boundaries.
Not just these guys.
Just these guys, you know?
Let's jump right in.
Yeah. I don't know that a lot of people would either guess this or know this for sure. But most of the time, I'll come walking in here, 7:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. And the question is, what are we going to talk about? And you usually have a couple.
That's our show prep.
Yeah. If I haven't sent something that came to mind the night before, which is not very often, I come in here knowing you're going to have something kind of thought through a little bit at least. But this is, talk about unrehearsed. This is completely
off the cuff.
Off and on and off. And so,
Well,
yeah.
It's the Boy Scout in me.
Yeah.
Eagle Scout.
Preparedness.
Be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Before we jump into the topic of boundaries, I'm going to give you an explanation that helps you understand exactly what boundaries are.
Thank you.
And how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
A better way to conceptualize them than probably what most people have in their brain. And you hear it all the time. You need to set boundaries.
Right.
And then they don't know what that means other than, cut them off.
Yeah.
So
Stop saying yes to everybody.
So before we do into that, before we
we can do
go into that, get on you, mate. Sunday, guess where I was?
You actually want me to guess?
No, Lenexa, Kansas.
I don't think I'd have ever guessed that. Lenexa.
Tish got us tickets to the Newsboys concert.
Oh, nice.
Have you ever seen the Newsboys in person?
I tell people all the time, one of the best concerts I've ever been to. Newsboys.
And the drummer?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the...
Oh, yeah. They still do that.
It's
crazy.
This is from Friday or Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
There's a play button on here somewhere. This is their song, Jesus Freak.
Mm-hmm.
They bring somebody out of the audience
Oh, that's cool.
to do the opening rap.
Yep.
He did a great job.
Cool.
And while that's going on, you weren't noticing
He was going up.
that the drum was going up. And if you've never been to one of these shows, what's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Honey, why aren't they doing anything on stage right now?
He's about to go nuts.
He's from Australia.
The
Queensland.
drummer
The
is?
drummer, Duncan Phillips. He is insane.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yep.
Got the drum tilt going. Can you hear the audience?
Yep.
Would you think you're at a church Christian concert?
No, I mean, look at the light show. Look at everything.
Wait for it.
That takes some serious core.
Oh my goodness.
Big time.
Oh, and he
Now I'd be swinging all over the place.
he is ripped.
Yeah.
He's ripped.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw him.
So
man, it's
for the
been years
podcast
ago.
audience, if you're listening to this and you're wondering what the heck were we just watching, go over to the YouTube channel. Catch this video on the YouTube channel. I'm going to put some of the concert on there, and you get to see Duncan Phillips 20 feet in the air with a drum set, spinning 90 miles an hour, wailing away on the drums, tilted spinning, and a laser light show like you're not going to believe.
Yeah. Just one of the best concerts you could go to.
Hands down. Christian, rock, metal.
Yeah.
I've been to them all.
Yeah.
And these guys put on the best show.
No, I know. I know. It's really cool. And they've been doing that for years. I mean, a great show like
Yeah.
that, night in, night out for years.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's really cool.
I believe the band originally formed in Australia
Wow.
in '87,
Cool.
and then morphed and came over to the States. And
Yeah, they've been around for a minute. Jesus Freak was one of their first hits. And that song's been out for
a minute.
a minute or two.
Boundaries. When it comes to the topic of boundaries, that's the confusing question. As I mentioned earlier, people are always like, either a person is in or they're out. And I get that confusion all the time with, especially when it comes to forgiveness.
Sure.
Somebody offends you, wrongs you, a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a friend or a pastor, but you feel offended by somebody, and so you cut them out. And then when the question of repairing the relationship comes up, the feeling is I have to let them all the way back in. And so what I try to give people to help them kind of work with is this concept of boundaries, and put it into language that most people can understand. I liken it to physical boundaries. So if you're in your house and a stranger drives down your street, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the stranger driving down the street is a Westar truck, electric company truck. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. And if that electric company truck stops in front of your house, is that okay?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Depends on if I paid the bill.
Okay. So the electric truck gets out. The guy's got a hard hat on, an orange vest, and clipboard, sunglasses, and he walks up your sidewalk. Is that okay?
Well, we're still going to find out.
And then he comes to your front porch and he rings the doorbell. Is that okay? You open the door, look out, and he says, "Excuse me, sir, but we're double checking all the electrical technical stuff in the neighborhood, and just wanted to make sure your electricity is working fine. Here's my badge. You can call in this phone number if you feel uncomfortable in any moment." Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he presents you with a work order. You've already received something in the mail. And he says, "If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just step in, plug my meter into your outlet box, make sure that everything's 60 hertz, 120 volts, running smooth, and then I'll be out. Work order in place. You've made the phone call. Is that okay?"
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that guy, the electrician who's checking your outlet for a very legitimate work order need, he says, "I'm kind of tired. You might have to go lay down in your bed and take a nap. Is that okay?"
Yeah. No.
No. Okay. New scenario.
Yep.
Stranger drives down your street. That okay?
Yep.
Stranger stops in front of your house.
Little less okay.
Stranger comes up on your front porch.
Less.
Stranger rings the doorbell. Do you answer the door?
Rarely.
Rarely. See? See? But let's say you do open the door and the stranger says, "Hey, can I come in, sit down in your living room?"
Yeah. No.
No. Okay. Now, new scenario. I already played it out in my brain. That was so funny.
Yeah.
I'll share it with you. Terry drives down your street.
Yeah. Okay.
No. But a good friend of yours, Randy,
Yeah.
he's out and about. He drove down your street. Is that okay?
Yep.
Randy's on your sidewalk. Is that okay?
Sure.
Randy comes into your front porch. Is that okay?
Yep.
Randy has to come and sit down in your living room. Is that okay?
Yep.
Now, Randy says, "Can I go take a nap in your bed?"
It's weird, but
Okay. So, new scenario. Your wife's out running errands. Your wife drives down the street. Is that okay? Your wife comes on the front porch. Is that okay? Your wife comes into the living room. Is that okay?
I haven't even noticed.
Your wife goes into the bedroom to take a nap. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. So you just exhibited boundaries. Depending on your relationship with the person,
Sure.
you are determining your comfort level with how far into your physical boundaries you allow them,
Okay.
depending on your relationship with them.
Sure.
So strangers, you don't want them on your front porch. Get off. You don't lock them in the street near you. And that makes sense. That's everybody.
Yeah.
Who's that in front of our house? stand at the window for 2 hours. Who's parked in front of our house?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's your neighbor, if it's a friend, if it's a worker, police officer, we're like, they're doing something. Depending on our relationship with a person, we have a certain comfort level for how far they can come into our physical boundaries, including all the way into our deepest personal space, the bedroom.
Yeah.
And there are very few people you would actually allow to go back down that hallway and go lay in your bed. And this is the perfect example for personal boundaries. You decide if it's a stranger, how much personal information are they allowed to have? How far into you personally are they allowed to go?
Yeah.
And then if it's a professional relationship, an attorney, an accountant, a KG&E worker, they're allowed certain specific amounts of information related to the job that they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the plumber doesn't need to know about my marriage life, but the plumber needs to know what I did to clog up the toilet. Well, I had a big roast beef last night.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you that, but I ate the whole thing. I'm embarrassed. But it's necessary information for him to do his job.
Mm-hmm.
So your personal boundaries are akin to your physical boundaries. So you decide who is allowed on the front porch and what that front porch information looks like personally. Talking about the weather, the football, the Steelers, the yard, how things are going in the world. But when they start asking about family, that's living room stuff. And I don't know this person well enough to answer questions about my family, so I keep them personally on the front porch.
So what's the biggest reason people struggle with boundaries?
They don't know that they have a choice to limit what they share with other people. We're trying to put boundaries on other people. Well, they can't be asking that. Well, they can ask anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
You don't control them.
Right.
But do you want to answer it?
Right.
And that's where we direct our power at the things we have control over, and we control how far we allow people into our lives personally.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, when we move them out. And so that's where a lot of the rub comes in with boundaries, is somebody offends you or breaks your trust and you kick them all the way back out to the street.
Yeah.
From the bedroom out to the street personally. But is it possible now that they've offended you to move them from the bedroom to the living room? Talk about family matters and bills and what's going on and how you're feeling about what they did, but not kick them all the way out to the street. Or if you're dating somebody and you're comfortable in that living room area and they do something, do you have to break off the entire relationship, or can you move them out to the front porch? And so with this kind of understanding, there are layers to our boundaries. There are layers within us. I have a very personal secret area that I don't share with anybody but Tish. And then I have some personal stuff that I may share with family members, friends. And then I have superficial stuff that I'll share with the world. What do I not care if it gets broadcast on Facebook? Lance likes the Steelers. Okay. So I have a superficial level, I have a personal level, and then I have an intimate level. And I liken that, I think visually the representation of street, porch, living room, bedroom. Mm-hmm. Would I allow this person into my house? So why am I answering these questions here standing at the street corner? Boundaries.
So someone who's listening and they have boundary problems, but they haven't figured it out, what are some of the signs?
That you're uncomfortable, that you're doing things you didn't want to do because you don't know how to keep that person in their appropriate place. Strangers, and there are rules for a relationship. If a stranger stands, next to you in an elevator, you get uncomfortable. There's a rule that the stranger is supposed to stand away from you in an elevator.
Yeah.
But if you got on the elevator and your wife went to the far corner, you would be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
She is supposed to stand next to you. So we have all these unwritten rules in our brain. We kind of know how relationships are I'm going to try not to say supposed to work, but we all know how societally what we kind of have an expectation for relationships and how they work. And it's the same with boundaries. We just never had it articulated in a way that gives us a structure to operate within. Is this a street person? Is this somebody that I'm going to keep out on the street and only talk about the weather, wave as they go by? Is this somebody I'm going to allow on my front porch to hang out a little bit, talk about the weather, the kids, politics? Or is this a living room person? And I'm going to let them in and I'm going to share some of my personal family stuff, but not everything. And then there are the intimate people in our lives where I share my deepest, darkest secrets, my fears, my worries. I make myself vulnerable to them. And that may be just 2 or 3 people. And then knowing the structure. So just like if you had a party and a neighbor of yours that's been, a good friend for 10 or 15 years, he comes over to your house. Y'all are there in the living room where friends belong. Yeah. And he gets really drunk, pukes on your floor, flirts with your wife. Okay. Outside. out. You move him out of the living room.
Sure.
And then the next day, you don't let him back in the living room. Mm-hmm. You'll stop him on the front porch and say, no, John, you're not going back in the house today. Sit down. Sit down right here.
Yeah.
Get you a soda. Sit down on the front porch. So you move him back out to the front porch for a while and you make him earn your trust to get back in the living room.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're talking about with people when we're talking about personal boundaries. Is if I meet somebody on the street, I take some time out there to see if I can trust them to come onto my front porch. And then I spend time with them on the front porch before I decide if I can let them in the living room. So as I'm beginning to talk with them about superficial kind of interests and opinions, if they handle that well, then maybe I open up a little bit more and share some more personal kind of parts of my life with them.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
boundaries. Learn them, love them.
I saw something so here's something to just consider, and then we'll shut her down. I saw this deal that said, love needs action. Needs. Truth needs proof, or trust needs proof, and then sorry needs change. So there's some boundaries that we can consider.
Sure.
When it comes to 3 very critical areas.
Woo!
Thank you, Doc.
Great show today, Mike.
It has been very
Thanks for sharing.
Informative and enjoyable. Awesome.
I'm Dr. Parker.
I'm Pastor Mike.
And we will catch you guys on the next episode of Just These Guys.
Have an awesome week.